Roll your sleeve up and look at your arm. Go on. Actually, look at it. If your family tree comes from anywhere outside Africa, then somewhere between 1 and 4% of the instructions that built that arm did not come from your species. They came from a different kind of human. A person with a heavier brow, a wider chest, and a brain the same size as yours or bigger. You are carrying pieces of them around in your body, right now, while you sit there. Their species ran for about 400,000 years. Ours has managed 300,000 so far. And we are still going. Then, roughly 40,000 years ago, they stopped, which means something that almost nobody thinks about. There was a last one specific person, a face, a bad knee, a favorite spot to sit, the final member of an entire kind of human being. So what actually happened to the last Neanderthal on Earth? Here is where your brain probably fills in the answer for you. You would assume we killed them. Some grim little scene, with spears and screaming. Our clever ancestors wiping out the slower, dumber cousins. That is not what happened. Not even close. There is no massacre layer, no mass graves, no battle line anywhere in the archaeological record. Here is the thing. Nobody tells you about extinction. It is usually boring. Species almost never end in a dramatic final stand. They end in slow arithmetic, in a number that quietly gets smaller every generation until it reaches 1, and then 0. And the Neanderthals had a number problem from the very beginning. Try this for scale. They were here, walking around Europe, before your species existed anywhere on the planet. They survived multiple ice ages. They buried some of their dead. They made things for no practical reason at all, and they still went out. But here is the strangest part, and it is the part I want you to hold on to. They did not entirely go extinct. You are going to find out that you are part of the reason. There are none left. First, we need to kill the cartoon in your head. The shuffling, grunting brute from the old museum posters is a 19th century invention, and it came from a single badly analyzed skeleton belonging to a man with severe arthritis. The real ones stood up straight. Their average brain volume was around 1,400 cubic centimeters, which is equal to yours, and often a bit larger. They ranged from the coast of Portugal all the way to the mountains of southern Siberia. In a French cave called Bruniquel, someone snapped hundreds of stalagmites off the floor and arranged them into deliberate rings, deep in the dark, where no daylight has ever reached. Those rings are about 176,000 years old. Nobody has a confident answer for what they were for. That is a Neanderthal building, something in a place that required fire, planning, and a reason, and in a cave called Shanidar, in the mountains of Iraq. Researchers found a man that archaeologists nicknamed Nandy. His skull was crushed on one side. He was almost certainly blind in one eye. One arm was withered and useless, probably amputated above the elbow. He was likely deaf. He lived into his 40s like that. In a landscape with cave bears and no medicine, you do not survive 20 years of that on your own. Somebody fed him. Somebody kept bringing him along. So when I say a species of human ended, I need you to understand what kind of human we are actually talking about. Which brings us to the question of exactly when. For a long time, the honest answer was that nobody really knew. Radiocarbon dating gets unreliable right around 40,000 years, which is exactly the window we care about. Because the tiniest speck of modern contamination makes an old sample look much younger than it is. So in 2014, a team led by Tom Hyam did something enormous. They went back to 40 sites across Europe, from Spain to Russia, and redated everything using a method that scrubs the contamination out first. They got a real deadline. Neanderthals disappear from the record between about 41,000 and 39,000 years ago. Not one dramatic year. A window, about 2,000 years wide, in which they fade out region by region, west to east, like lights going off across a continent. And that same study found the detail that changes the whole story. When they lined up the dates for Neanderthals with the dates for arriving modern humans, the two overlap for somewhere between 2,600 and 5,400 years. Sit with that number for a second. 5,000 years is longer than the gap between you and the pyramids. That is not an invasion. That is not a war. That is roughly 200 generations of two kinds of human sharing a continent, walking the same valleys, hunting the same deer, almost certainly watching each other's fires from a distance. Whatever happened, it happened slowly enough that nobody alive at any point in it would have noticed it happening, which is exactly why the two most popular explanations both fall apart. Now, here is where it gets interesting, because this field had to correct itself in public. For years, the most famous fact about Neanderthals was the last refuge. The story went like this. As modern humans spread across Europe, the last Neanderthals retreated south, further and further, until they ran out of continent at Gibraltar. In 2006, a team reported dates from a sea cave there, called Gorham's Cave, suggesting Neanderthals held on until roughly 28,000 years ago. A.D. Want. Sound. Wendy. It is a beautiful story, the last of them, on a rock at the edge of the world watching the sea. It is also probably wrong. When the newer contamination proof dating methods went to work on those late sites, the very young dates kept evaporating. Sample after sample turned out to be younger material that had worked its way down into older layers. And I want to be fair here, because a few researchers still defend the late Gibraltar dates, and the argument is not completely finished. But the weight of the evidence moved. The last Neanderthals were not clinging to a rock at 28,000 years ago. They were already gone 10,000 years earlier. All right, if we did not kill them, maybe something else did. And there is a genuinely spectacular suspect about 39,000 years ago. A volcano near modern Naples produced one of the largest eruptions Europe has seen in the last 100,000 years. It is called the Campanian Ignimbrite. It buried a chunk of the Mediterranean in ash and knocked the climate around badly. The timing is almost perfect. Enormous eruption. Human species vanishes, case closed. Except the dates say no, Hyams Reb. Dating put most of the Neanderthal disappearance before that ash fell. By the time the volcano went off, they were mostly already gone. The eruption did not kill them. It landed on top of a species that was already almost finished, which means we are out of dramatic answers, and we have to go looking for a boring one. So here is the part that should bother you. There is a concept in population biology called effective population size. The plain version is this. It is not how many of you there are. It is how many of you are actually breeding and mixing. And you can read it straight out of a genome, because a small, isolated population leaves a very specific fingerprint. Everybody in it starts being related to everybody else. In 2013, a team sequenced a toe bone from a cave in the Altai Mountains of Siberia from a Neanderthal woman. Her genome came back with enormous, identical stretches on both sides. Her parents were about as closely related as half-siblings, and it goes further back than her parents. Her whole ancestry showed generation after generation of close relatives. This was not one unlucky family. For her population, this was normal. Imagine a world where the nearest other group of people is a 2-week walk away and might not be there when you arrive. That is the Neanderthal condition. Not a bad century. Their entire existence. And here is where it gets genuinely eerie in 2024. Researchers published the genome of a late Neanderthal man from a cave in southern France. The team nicknamed him Thorin. They expected him to be related to the other known Neanderthals in the area, because that is how populations work. He was not. Thorin's lineage had been genetically isolated for about 50,000 years. His ancestors and the ancestors of the Neanderthals living relatively nearby had simply stopped exchanging people for 50,000 years. And apparently nobody in either group ever fixed that. 50,000 years of not meeting the neighbors. So, when we say the word Neanderthal, we are doing something misleading. We are using one word for a thing that was never one people. They were islands. Small, separate, inward-looking islands of human beings, dotted across a continent, quietly getting more and more related to themselves. Now hold that image, because modern humans are about to walk into the picture, and we did the exact opposite thing. Our ancestors arrived in Europe carrying a boring superpower: networks. Shells from the coast turning up hundreds of kilometers inland, stone from one valley showing up in another. Groups that stayed in contact, traded, and swapped people, more partners, more mixing, more babies that were not cousins. And when those two ways of living met, they did not mostly fight. They had children, we are not guessing. We have the actual people in a cave in Romania. There is a jawbone from a man who lived about 40,000 years ago. Researchers call him OZ1. He was a modern human, but somewhere between 6 and 9% of his DNA was Neanderthal, which is several times more than anyone alive today carries. That is not an ancient smudge from a distant ancestor. That much DNA means a Neanderthal, great-great-grandparent, 4 to 6 generations back. This man had a Neanderthal in living family memory, and it ran in the other direction too. In a Siberian cave, a single bone fragment turned out to belong to a girl who died around 90,000 years ago. Her mother was a Neanderthal. Her father was a Denisovan, a third kind of human. She was a first-generation hybrid, not a distant echo of mixing, the actual child in the actual room. Researchers named her Denny, which is either charming or heartbreaking, depending on your mood. Now here is the detail that turns this from a science story into a ghost story. You have two kinds of DNA that travel in unbroken single-file lines. Mitochondrial DNA passes from mother to child forever, only through daughters. The Y chromosome passes from father to son, forever, only through sons. They are surnames written in biology. Every living human has been checked. There is no Neanderthal mitochondrial DNA in anybody. There is no Neanderthal Y chromosome in anybody. Not one unbroken line survived. Every single one of those threads was cut. But about 1 to 4% of the rest is still here in the body you are sitting in. So the pieces that carry no name survived. And the two lines that would have carried a name died out completely. And there is a leading explanation for that pattern, though I want to be careful, because this one is still being argued about. When researchers mapped where Neanderthal DNA sits in our genome, they found it thins out in two specific places: on the X chromosome and around the genes involved in making sperm. The most common reading is that the male children of mixed couples often had reduced fertility. If that is right, then the mixing worked. But it leaked. Every generation, a little of them was quietly filtered out. That is the thing about being the small population. You do not get absorbed all at once. You get absorbed by rounding. So let us put the whole machine together, because none of the parts are dramatic, and the result is total. You have a species that was never numerous. Tiny bands, permanently inbred, some of them isolated for 50,000 years. You have a second species arriving in larger connected groups that trade and mix. The two meet, and they get along well enough to have children together for thousands of years. Every time a Neanderthal joined the bigger crowd, the small population lost a member, and the big one gained one. And the small population had nobody spare. That is it. That is the extinction. No villain, no final battle. Just a number going down in a place with no one to count it. But I promised you they did not entirely go extinct, and I need to make good on that, because this is not a poetic flourish. Any one person outside Africa carries only a small slice of Neanderthal DNA. But here is the trick. Different people carry different slices. So researchers did the obvious, clever thing. They pooled the slices from thousands of living people and started reassembling the jigsaw. They have recovered something like a fifth of the entire Neanderthal genome that way. Not from a bone, from us. Their species is sitting in a freezer in Leipzig, and also in roughly 6 billion bodies, in pieces, filed under miscellaneous. And those pieces are not decorative. They are still doing their jobs. A lot of what we inherited clusters around the immune system, which makes brutal sense when you think about it. They had been living in Europe for hundreds of thousands of years before we showed up. They had already met the local diseases, and their bodies had already paid for the answers. When our ancestors arrived and had children with them, those children got a shortcut. Immune settings that took a species 400,000 years to tune, handed over in one generation. That is not a fossil, that is a bequest. And it is still live in 2020. Researchers reported that a stretch of DNA on one of our chromosomes, inherited straight from Neanderthals, is a major genetic risk factor for severe illness from the coronavirus. Read that again, because it is genuinely strange. People got seriously ill in a modern pandemic, partly because of a decision that a Neanderthal population made about their immune system before your species ever entered Europe. They are not history. They are a variable in your medical chart. Which brings us back to the person we started with, somewhere around 40,000 years ago, in a valley in Europe. There was a last one. We will never know where. We will never know their name, or their face, or whether they were old. And think about this for a second. They did not know either. There was no ceremony. Nothing in the sky changed. It was almost certainly an ordinary bad day in a life made of hard days. A species does not end the way a story ends. It ends the way a language ends, with a last speaker sitting in a room, with nobody left who understands the words. And here's the part I keep coming back to. We know they existed because we are partly made out of them. 400,000 years of being human, of burying friends, of carrying a broken man through the mountains for 20 years, of stacking stalagmites in the dark, for a reason we cannot even guess. All of it came down to a rounding error in somebody else's population. We did not defeat them. We outnumbered them, and then we married them. And the small number dissolved into the large one. And before you feel too comfortable on the winning side of that arithmetic, you should know that our own species has been through the same squeeze. Our genes carry the scar of it. There were stretches where we were down to a genetically tiny population ourselves. We are not the species that beat the odds. We are the species that got a slightly better roll. So the next time somebody calls another person a Neanderthal, you can tell them two things. One, the Neanderthals took care of their disabled for decades, which is more than most societies manage. Two, statistically, they are insulting their own great-great-grandparent. There is a whole world of these little human mysteries, and most of them are hiding in your own body. Stick around. If you are curious about being human,